I was recently asked a question by a grief support leader. Her question to all of us was, what does hope look like to you? After pondering this for quite a while, I said, I couldn't quite see it before, but I see life again for me and my family. That's what hope looks like to me. It looks like I'll be able to get through this darkness, this fog, this cloud that hangs over me. That my son will always be with me, that the void will always be there, that I will never get over it. But I see life again for me and my family. That's what hope looks like to me.
Welcome to Get Real with Alexis Jones. On this podcast, we'll dive into real relationships with real people guided by the wisdom and perspective of some of the most seasoned voices in our community, our beloved seniors. Each week, we'll unpack the joys, challenges, and lessons learned about love, family, friendship, and everything in between. This is a space for heartfelt conversations, eye-opening truths, and powerful stories that will inspire and challenge the way you think about relationships. We're keeping it honest, unfiltered, and deeply meaningful. So settle in and let's get ready to get real. Let's jump in.
Welcome to another episode of Get Real with Alexis. Today's topic is finding hope in grief. I am Alexis, and I am so excited that you were able to join me. I have a question. Have you ever lost hope? Maybe come close to it. Maybe you're in that place right now. Today, I want to share my journey and my thoughts about finding hope again when it seems elusive, when it feels difficult to find. When my son Herman passed away 7 months ago, I felt like the sun set and refused to rise again. My world was overcast with dark clouds, and I felt like I was walking around in a dense fog. Not only did I have trouble seeing, I felt confused and unable to focus. I recall friends and loved ones saying things to give me hope, as loved ones and friends do, especially in those difficult moments. I recall not really being able to process what they were saying in that moment. The words somehow seemed to dissipate in space. However, I'm so glad they took the time to say those things to me, to try to encourage me and comfort me. I felt their love. So did I ever feel hopeless? No, I don't think I ever felt completely hopeless. However, I did feel like I was holding on to hope by fighting the sadness to remember all that God has done for me over my 7 decades of living, how He provided, how He kept my family in so many ways through so many circumstances, how He sent angels to help me when I could not help myself, how He favored me in my career, unexpected promotions or recognitions. Even now, God sends hope and love from others through text messages, calls, books, cards. After 7 months, caring people are continually walking alongside me. One card I received is from my brother Ruben. I hope he doesn't mind my sharing his name. It simply said, just checking in and praying God takes extra special care of you today. It brought a smile. And my best friend Betty sent a card this week as well. Her card said, thinking of you as often as I do and praying that the Lord will give you many good moments today. Hope. Betty and I often talk about moments because I told her I can't take a day at a time. I take a moment at a time. I ask for strength to get through the next moment. So I've been attending the church where Herman worked as an audio engineer. I had never been in this church before. There is a large sound booth in the balcony. It's a rather large church, a large sound booth in the balcony. And I sit near there because it gives me comfort to be in his space, to occupy a space that he once occupied. One Sunday, I got my first, I'll call it lethal infusion of hope since Herman left us. As I said, this is a very large church, but when the pastor preached this message, I felt as if I was the only one in the building, and he was talking directly to me and to my very personal, specific situation, as if he knew, as if we had talked. He spoke as if he knew my story, even the part of the story I had not shared with anyone. He talked about the widow who lost her son in Luke chapter 7, verses 11, 15, in case you want to read that on your own. And I won't recount the message, but Pastor Black emphasized three things Jesus did when he saw the dead son and his mother. He saw her, he had compassion on her, and thirdly, he was moved to help her. That is what I took away. That is what I held on to. That is what spoke to me so loudly and so vividly during that message. God sees me. You know what it means when someone sees you? It's not physical. It's more than that. It's that they see into you. They care about you. They see your feelings. They see your confusion. They see your fears. They see you. They care enough to look, and they see you. They know where you are. They see you. They listen to you because they want to know you. God sees me. God has compassion on me. And God is moved to help me too. That's what I took away. That's what I held on to. Those three things. The whole message was beautiful, but I couldn't repeat it. But I can repeat this over and over again because he talked about when Jesus saw the dead son and her mother, and he saw her grief, he was moved with compassion. He saw her. He had compassion on her, and he was moved to help her. I tried really hard not to cry, but I cried and I cried until I went through all the tissues in my purse, and my makeup was now non-existent. It was ugly. I tried to hide my tears, but I had absolutely no control during the entire remainder of the service. I was a mess. I was sitting there alone. I was a mess. They were ugly tears. I was moved more than you can imagine by this message that when no one else understands, because how can you? You don't have these shoes on. You don't. How can you completely understand? Because you didn't lose Herman. But God sees me, and he sees you, and he looks at us with compassion, and he's moved to help us. So my friends and relatives who love me dearly, may not always understand. They are not with me in the middle of the night when the pain of grief is unbearable. But in those moments, God sees me. He sees my tears. He sees my pain. He sees my questions. He sees my confusion, my broken heart. He sees my fears. He sees me. And he let me know that he does. I miss Herman so much. You can't even imagine. The waves of grief still come in with great intensity. However, this sermon on this day began the process of restoring and strengthening my hope. I was recently asked a question by a grief support leader. Her question to all of us was, what does hope look like to you? After pondering this for quite a while, I said, I couldn't quite see it before, but I see life again for me and my family. That's what hope looks like to me. It looks like I can get through, I'll be able to get through this darkness, this fog, this cloud that hangs over me. That my son will always be with me, that the void will always be there, that I will never get over it. But I see life again for me and my family. That's what hope looks like to me. One of the speakers on a video in Grief Share, which is another grief support group, talked about how God always uses these traumatic events in our lives, especially in the life of a believer. And he asked, Lord, how do you want to use this? When he suffered his great loss, that was his question to the Lord. How do you want to use this? Because he said, if I'm going to get the pain, help me to get the point. He emphasized there is a point to our pain. Do I know the point to my pain? Absolutely not. Not yet. Another speaker talked of God's love. Then he made a point of saying, love doesn't anesthetize us from the pain, but it sustains us in the middle of it. Joni Eareckson Tada explained that God sees tragedy for what it is, and he is deeply grieved. She said, God feels the sting, he does, but he also sees a greater purpose, a beautiful mosaic. The death of Jesus was horrific. It was horrific. But the beautiful mosaic is that it brought the redemption of all mankind. So in essence, God permits what he hates to accomplish what he loves. I want to say that again. That really struck me. This is from Joni Eareckson Tada. How God hates the trauma. He hates the pain that we're in. But he has a greater purpose, a more beautiful purpose, a beautiful mosaic, such as what happened when Jesus died on the cross, when he suffered all that he suffered before he got to the cross, and then he died on the cross. God had to turn his back. He hated that, but he loved that it would bring redemption to all of us. So in essence, God permits what he hates to accomplish what he loves. God hates your pain and mine. I don't know the point or the purpose, but even through my pain, I trust his love for me, and I trust his love for my son Herman. I'd like to leave you with some thoughts, some scriptures that have encouraged me from the Bible. In 1 Thessalonians 4:13 says, brothers, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. We don't grieve like others who have no hope. But the point is this: we do grieve. Because some of us feel like if we are believers in Jesus, if we are followers of Jesus Christ, if we are Christians, we should not grieve or grieve long. We grieve. The scripture didn't say we shouldn't grieve. It says we should not grieve as those who have no hope, but we grieve, and grief hurts. Grief is painful, and you don't get over it overnight. We must grieve to get to healing. Jeremiah 31:13 promises us that God will turn our mourning into gladness and sorrow into comfort. He will, but we still have to go through grief. We will mourn and we will experience sorrow. That is the promise. It's inevitable, but don't lose hope. We will get stronger. I believe we will see again. We will laugh again. We will breathe again. And finally, I want to share one of my favorite scriptures. It's just an overall encouraging scripture that applies to any circumstance in your life. It's from Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20. And it gives us this beautiful promise. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think or even imagine, according to the power that works in us. God will not just restore our hope. He is our hope. See you next time.